Okay, this is section 7.2, solving systems using substitution, and this is an alternate method to graphing. The substitution method is a method for solving systems of equations by replacing one variable with an equivalent expression containing the other variable. I know that probably doesn't make a lot of sense right now, so I put together some steps for you. Step 1 is to get one of the variables by itself. So you're going to look for x or y and to see which one it would be easier to get alone. Step 2, substitute for that variable in the other equation. Step 3, solve the equation. Step 4, plug your solution into the equation where the variable is by itself and solve for the other variable. And step 5, check your answer by plugging it into both original equations. Okay, so our first example, we are going to solve using substitution. Okay, if you look at the two equations, you are going to try to pick one where you can get a variable by itself. Now I noticed that in the first equation, y is already by itself. Okay, so I know that y is equal to 2x. What I'm going to do is I am going to use that fact and I am going to replace y in the second equation with 2x because I know that y equals 2x. So instead of my second equation being 7x minus 15 equals y, I'm going to replace that y with the 2x from the first equation, and that's the substitution. Now this is an equation I should be able to solve. If I subtract 7x from both sides, I get negative 15 equals negative 5x. And then if we divide by negative 5, we get x is 3. Now if you remember yesterday, all of our solutions had an x-coordinate and a y-coordinate. So we need to actually figure out the y-coordinate. The good news is that it's really easy to figure out the y-coordinate by plugging it back into that first equation. We know that y is equal to 2x. So instead of writing y equals 2x, now we're going to replace x, and we know x is 3, so we're going to replace x with 3. So y is 2 times 3, which is 6. So our ordered pair should be 3, 6. Okay. Now, a good way to check is to plug that back in. Now, we know that this works in the first equation, right? 6 equals 2 times 3. So let's check the second equation. The second equation was 7x minus 15 equals 1. Let's plug those numbers into the second equation just to make sure that we have the right answer. So it's 7 times, what's x? X is 3, minus 15 equal to 6. Let's see, we get 21 minus 15. Is that equal to 6? It sure is. So that means our ordered pair, our answer is 3, 6. If you were to graph this, that means the two lines would cross at the point 3, 6. But instead of graphing, we use substitution. Okay, the next example, B. Okay, now if you'll notice in this example, there isn't a variable already by itself. But if I look at all the different ones, I can identify one that's easiest to solve for. I'm going to look for the variable that doesn't have a number out in front of it. And that is going to be that just plain x. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I am going to solve for that x to try to get that by itself. So if I want to get the x by itself, the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 2y. So now we have 3 minus 2y equals, and then be careful, there's still that negative sign in front of the x. So it's basically like having negative 1x. So to get x by itself, we're going to divide everything on the other side by negative 1. So I get negative 3 plus 2y equals x. That would be really nice if I was done, but that's only the beginning to my problem. Okay? Now that we know that what x is equal to negative 3 plus 2y. We're going to go back to that first equation, and we are going to plug in negative 3 plus 2y in for x. So let's rewrite that first equation. The first equation said 6, and then x. So instead of x in parentheses, we're going to replace it with negative 3 plus 2y. And then after 6x, it says plus 8y. So I'm going to write plus 8y. Again, we're using that top equation. Equals 28. All right, let's solve. We're going to distribute. So we get negative 18 plus 12y plus 8y equals 28. And then we are going to combine like terms. So we get negative 18 plus 20y equals 28. Add 18. So we get 20y equals 46. Okay. Divide by 20. We get y equals, and let's go decimal here. Calculator. See what 46 divided by 20 is. 2.3. So let's use 2.3 for that. Notice I'm letting you use a decimal, okay? Just make sure it's a decimal that terminates, not repeats, and do not round. Okay. Now that we know that y is 2.3, that's half of our answer. That's the second part of our ordered pair. To be able to figure out what x is, we have to go back and see that green circled equation. We are going to plug in 2.3 for y into that equation. So that equation says negative 3 plus 2y. So negative 3 plus 2 times y, and y was 2.3, equals x. So negative 3 plus 2 times 2.3 is 4.6. So that means x is going to be equal to 1.6. Okay, when we write our ordered pair, you always put your x first. So 1.6. And then your y second, 2.3. And that's our answer. And if we want to check it, we have to go back and plug that into one of our equations to make sure that it works. Make sure you plug it back into one of the original equations, not one of the solved ones, or you might have already made an error. Okay? All right. Okay, next example. Okay, this one you'll notice that in the first equation, y is already by itself. So what we're going to do is we are going to replace y in the second equation with 3x. Okay, so rewrite the second equation, but instead of y, we're going to replace it with 3x, and then equals, and we're going to write the rest of the equation, 3x plus 2. We want to get our x's on the same side. So let's see, we get 0 equals, well that's going to go away. So 0 equals 2. All right, 0 equals 2. That's never true. So this one actually is going to be no solution. We like no solution ones because we have to do so much less work. Now, with the no solution, you should have been able to tell even by looking at these two equations, because you'll notice that if we were to graph these two lines, they are parallel, which means they won't cross. Okay, we're going to do a couple word problems. All right, Sophie has $50 in the bank. She deposits $10 per month. Jenny has $400 in the bank, and she withdraws $40 per month. When will they have the same amount in their accounts? Okay, So we need to come up with two variables, okay? I notice that I see the words per month a lot, so I know my months are important, okay? And whatever words after that per month, that's going to be your x, okay? So we're going to let x be our number of months. And then for our y, okay, it's asking how or when will we have the same amount in their accounts. So we are talking about the amount of money in their accounts. Okay, so we need to write an equation, actually two equations, because we're writing a system. Okay, the first one's going to be out Sophie. Okay, so Sophie, we want to find out how much total money she has in her account. So her total money, which is Y, and then it says that she has $50, so she already has $50, and then she deposits, which means we're going to add $10 per month. So that's going to be 10, and then our months was X. Okay, see if you can go ahead and do Jenny's. Pause it. Okay, Jenny. So her total, she had $400, but she's not depositing, she's actually withdrawing, so that means that we're going to subtract $40 per month. So that's 40x. And those are our two equations. So now we have our system. So what we're going to do is we are going to replace y. Okay, we already have y by itself in the first one. We're going to replace y in the second one with the value from the first. So we're going to write 50 plus 10x equals, and then that's going to be equal to 400 minus 40x. Okay? Let's get your x's on the same side. So we are going to add 40x. So we get 50 plus 50x equals 400. Okay? Subtract 50. So we get 50x equals 350. And then we divide by 50. And we get x equals 7. So x stood for months, so that means 7 months. Now, the good news is the question asks when will they have the same amount in their accounts. Because it's asking when, it's asking for time. So they will have the same amount in their accounts at 7 months. Now it didn't ask, but if it asked how much money that was, we'd actually have to plug in 7 for x, go back to one of our original equations, and figure out what y was. So if it had asked, we'd do y equals 50 plus 10 times 7, and that would be 50 plus 70, which is $120, okay? And then a good way to check would be to just plug that in the second one. It's 400 minus 40 times 7 equal to that, and it is. I am running out of time, so I have to stop. Your last example will be on a different clip. And I apologize, I'm doing this very quickly. I know it's a tough lesson to learn, but hopefully you'll get some help from your sub. And please write down any questions that you might have. Make sure you ask them to me on Wednesday when I return. Thank you.